G'day, I'm back. Anyhow, I wanted to talk a bit about promises to pay and people who are using promises to pay to settle debts. This is wrong thinking. I understand why people do that, but it is wrong thinking. So the title of this video is Say Goodbye to I Am a Debtor. I'm aware of people, well, actually I got an email from a fellow the other day who had seen these videos and had shared a story. Actually, let me read it here for you. I've been working on recovering my wife's foreclosed property. I used an international promissory note to discharge any claimed debt that was in the court. The bank accepted the international promise to pay, but it never went anywhere as to the court. I've read some of your information. I'm very interested. I'm aware of other people. I'm aware of a fellow in, I think it's South Africa, who was on the internet there claiming, again, I'm not disputing anything there, or his intentions whatsoever. But anyway, he was claiming or saying that he managed to settle about $800,000 in mortgages with a promise to pay that the bank had announced in the court, whatever, that they accept promises to pay, which is true. Anyhow, he had used a promise to pay to settle up an existing debt. I want to explain some technicalities here with respect to these promissory notes. See, when you give a bank a promissory note, your promissory note is credits the account. It is the source of the credit. You're the originator. Remember, we talked about this in a previous video. So you're the originator of the credit. So when you give the bank a promise to pay, and I'm going to use an example here of, say, someone wants to purchase a home, whether it's a home or a car or any kind of line of credit, extension of credit, so on and so forth, matters not. Even applications for driver's license, social insurance, or SSN, these are all securities or promises to pay as well. They don't say promise to pay on the front, but that's what they are. So take a 500,000. Somebody wants to get a home. It's a home. It's going to cost, say, $1 million. We'll work with kind of today's crazy prices. And let's say that the people that are looking to purchase this home, they need a $500,000 loan or mortgage. They've got 500,000 of their own money. So they go to the bank and they're going to sign a promise to pay what everybody thinks is a promise to pay for $500,000, and that they gave the bank a promise to pay for $500,000, but that's not true. Remember, they add the interest cost and interest amortization to that $500,000 and other costs. So that actual note value is going to be what the final payout figure is. So, for example, on a $500,000 mortgage, and I'm just picking random figures here, the final amount, once the debt is paid off with the interest and the monthly payment, so on and so forth, is going to say $1 million. So, although in the face you're thinking I borrowed $500,000, and which is true in a mortgage, but which you actually gave the bank was the original $500,000, but then they do the calculations and figure out, okay, after repayment, so on and so forth, it's $1 million. Who actually gave the bank $1 million piece of credit. $1 million, not 500,000. Important to understand that. And when the bank received that promissory note, it puts it on its books as an asset, a financial asset. I want to show you something here. I talked about it in the video, what a security is. I mentioned the securities account. Okay, I also mentioned in that video, just let me pull up the screen share here and show you something. Better prepared today. Yeah, I showed you in the video what a security is, that a promise to pay or a promissory note is not a security, but is a financial asset if it is held in a securities account. That would be akin to what's called a special deposit, which is far different than a general deposit. However, that's not the focus here, not yet. So here's the meaning of a securities. This is from the Ontario Securities Act. You'll find the same thing in UCC Article 8-501. So this is Ontario, Canada, and if you're under this jurisdiction of UCC, then look at Article 8-501. Right here, definitions in this act. Security account means an account to which a financial asset is or may be credited in accordance with an agreement under which the person maintaining the account undertakes to treat the person for whom the account is maintained as entitled to exercise the rights that constitute the financial asset. So you see here, a promissory note or a bill of exchange is not a security, but is a financial asset if it's held in a securities account. It's that simple. So you see, your bill of exchange or your promissory note. In this case, we're talking about promissory note. So your promissory note, once it hits that securities account, it credits the account. So now back to the promise to pay. You give the bank a promise to pay for $1 million. That goes into that securities account. So who's extending the credit here? And this is why I titled this deck. Sorry. Anyhow, just going to stop the screen share here for a moment. Well, let me carry on. So the credit the banks extend or lend is not bank credit, it's our credit. They're lending us our own credit. And it's been going on for a very long time, very long time. Let's step back approximately 80, 90 years. So you see the consequence of this has been a huge shift of wealth from you and I to the private banking cartel. This is why they have all the power on the planet that they have, because we've been partaking into this. We've been feeding into this, not knowingly, not consciously, not aware of what's going on here. I get that. We're all suffering. Like people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. You betcha. And it's coming to a head. I think everybody's kind of aware of what's going on around the planet there. You know, to put that a little bit in perspective, you know, up here in Canada, there's been talk, I don't know the truth of any of it, and but that talk, and I think I've heard it elsewhere on the internet, that's some, you know, countries are offering, you know, if you give up ownership of property, we'll pay all your debts. Well, first off, we don't owe them anything. They owe us. They're the debtors. We're the creditors. It's all backwards. We're the ones that extend the credit. When we put that, provide the bank a promissory note, that is the source of the credit. We are the originators. We're the ones extending the credit to the bank, not the other way around. You really got to focus on that and get that. Very important. So yeah, so they're saying, give up the ownership of property and we'll pay your debts. Well, first off, they already own the property, legally speaking. So we really don't have ownership to give up. If you believe you're an owner, then maybe you want to give up the belief. But in fact, in reality, legally, spiritually, in God's kingdom, we don't own the property. God granted man dominion over properties, not ownership. If you don't believe in God, you want to work down here, that's fine. Because of this trust situation, the trustees own the property, legally speaking. Remember, I said the legal title is granted in the trust, or the title is granted in the trust. It's our property they're holding in the trust, so that constitutes a trust. They're holding it in trust as trustee, and the trustee's the debtor. Because the trustee's holding the legal title, we hold the equitable title, all of us. So in case in point, they already, legally speaking, they already own the property. As far as debt forgiveness goes, if anyone's up in the position to forgive debts, it's us. But if you believe you're a debtor, then what they're offering sounds good, doesn't it? Like, don't take, anyhow, I would highly recommend people don't take that offer if it ever comes to that. And maybe after this this series of videos, you have a better understanding what's actually going on. You see, like I said before, all of these legally created entities or man-made entities, it is impossible for them to produce anything, let alone provide or be the originators of credit. So anyhow, there you have it in front of your face right here. A promissory note or bill of exchange is not a security, but is a financial asset if it's held in a securities account, and it credits the account. There you see it. It credits the account. Your note with your signature is your property. Know this, no one can put your signature on anything without your consent. That leads into things like identity theft. Think about it. So anyhow, back to my notes. So this email I got from this fellow the other day, and it's very much the same thing the fellow in South Africa was sharing on the internet, how he used a promise to pay to allegedly extinguish the debt. But let's go back to that. He didn't actually extinguish any debt. See, like I said, when you give the bank a promise to pay, so back to my original story, you give the bank a promise to pay, you think, okay, I'm here to borrow $500,000. And at the end of the day, you actually gave the bank a promise to pay for $1 million. You gave the bank $1 million in credit. That's the value of the note. Then the bank turns around and cuts a check payable to the vendor for $500,000. So at this point, the bank owes you $500,000. And there is technically no debt. But then you sign the paper to promise, you know, to pay the bank back. That's kind of the bait and switch situation there. So this fella here, I got the email the other day, and this fella in Africa, so they'd already given the bank the credit to fund the mortgage. Of course, the bank's coming in to foreclose, claiming you didn't pay. But again, this is all based on the presumption that we have abandoned our securities, because that $1 million promise to pay you gave to the bank that credits that securities account, they're presuming you abandoned that. They're presuming you walked away from $1 million. And so here's the point: is because they presumed the proper way to approach these foreclosures, so on and so forth, or you don't necessarily wait to go into foreclosure to deal with this, is they are presuming that we have abandoned our securities. They're presuming we've abandoned our promises to pay. That's what all of this is about. That's what it's based on. Just a moment here. I just got to pause the recording for a moment. Sorry. Thanks. So, so these fellows are using promises to pay to allegedly close off mortgages. And I think it only worked for the fella in South Africa because the lawyer for the bank actually stated in the court that they accept promises to pay. In any case, that the chances of that being successful for everybody is slim to none. And again, it's a lack of understanding. So you go into the bank, you give the bank a promise to pay. You actually funded the loan, so you don't own the bank. You don't owe the bank anything at that point. I guess it's not playing out that way, but the fact of the case is your note credits the account for $1 million. So back to the fella in the U.S., in South Africa, who the bank was claiming through the law firm for $800,000 grand total mortgages. I think it was 2 or 3 different mortgages, maybe 4, it doesn't matter, but that was the grand total. And he claims he was able to settle those. So let's get this straight here. That original debt that the bank is claiming on started with his promise to pay. So what he did is he gave them another promise to pay. So he handed them another $800,000. So let's say the original. So let's go back to this fella here with my original story. Somebody wants to borrow $500,000 for a home. You've given the bank the promise to pay for $1 million. You got a check from the bank payable to the vendor for $500,000. The bank owes you $500,000. So anyhow, let's carry on. And you're not aware of all of this time. And one day the bank comes along to foreclose. The proper way to deal with that, whether it gets to the foreclosure stage or not, and it's actually better to do this or be aware of this before it gets to foreclosure. I'm just working on the foreclosure aspect because that's the kind of thing people are talking about on the internet, where they've used promises to pay, or trying to use promises to pay to get rid of these debts. So the proper way to approach this is not to see when you. So in other words, let me put it this way. I'm just going to read something here. When you give the bank a security, a promissory note or international promissory note, doesn't matter. It was like he handed the bank a blank check, or a check for the face amount, i.e. $500,000, which is actually $1 million. And then you come back later on and say, okay, I'm going to settle this debt with another promise to pay. So you're giving him another check. You get what I'm saying here? So if the original loan was $500,000, you give him a check for $1 million. Then you say, okay, I got an $800,000 mortgage to pay off. So I'm going to give him another promise to pay for $800,000. You just give him another check for $800,000. So now the bank's got $1.8 million in your credit and gave nothing. It gave nothing to you in exchange. Remember, it's calling this a loan. So even that $500,000 check that the bank gave to the vendor, they're calling it a loan. They're not actually giving you anything. They're lending it to you. So because they call it a loan, so there has been zero exchange. The bank received $1.8 million in this scenario, and you, the originator of the actual credit, got nothing. Zero. In exchange. This is why there's the trust, as I've explained before. Whenever you give something, some property, and certainly in the case of securities, and they don't give anything in exchange, which they're obligated by law to do, but they're not doing it, and that's the tax evasion aspect of it. But excuse me, just going to pause again here, sorry. So I'm just losing my train of thought. So let me just stick with my notes here. I'm just rambling on. So anyhow, so it's when you try to settle a financial obligation that started with a promise to pay, and they all do, and you try to finish it off with another promise to pay, you're just handing the bank another free check. The proper way to deal with this whole situation is not that way. The proper way is to start off with knowing that it's your security that funded the situation in the first place. It's your credit, and it starts with claiming, I did not abandon that security. They owe us. We do not owe them anything. Never did. Never did. I get that we're born into this reality, and you're taught, and we're all programmed to be good debtors and get a good job, get a credit rating, and pay our bills. That's a manufactured reality, people. That is not the reality. That's the reality they want us to believe. We are not. Get this in you. Men and women are not debtors. So let me carry on here with my little blurbage. So the note that was provided to fund the original mortgage funded the loan / mortgage. It is the credit item. So again, you see, when you give the bank the promissory note, you're the one extending the credit to the bank, and then they're turning around and lending that to you plus interest. Oh my God, it's ugly. Oh, it's ugly when you do the math on this, but this is why people need to wake up, and this is how we can take it all back, and enough people get involved, turn it around for everyone. So when you gave the bank a second note with the idea to settle the first debt with it, you handed them more credit. The point is, they owe us. They owe the originator of the note back to the original mortgage, not the other way around. We don't owe them. They are the ones with the obligation to perform. But again, they presume that you abandon that security, that promise to pay. That's how they do it. That's all it is. That's all it is. That's the magic trick here. Magic words, whatever. There's no. That's the wizardry. They're presuming we have abandoned our securities, walked away from our own credit. Like I said in one of the calls, it's like you hand somebody a gold bar and walk away. No instructions. So at some point in time, you're going, well, somebody gave me a bar of gold and he disappeared. Guess it's mine now. Nobody claiming it, right? Hence, reclaim your securities. So the point is, they owe you back the original mortgage, the original the value. And that is plus whatever you paid into it. So if you've been paying a mortgage for 25 years on top of what you already handed them, all of that, the fruits, all of it comes back to you if you claim that security. Starting with, I didn't abandon that security. No, I did not abandon that security. So they assume and presume that we abandon that security, and that's how they get away with it. That's how they do it. This is what Reclaim Your Securities in the information package we offer is all about. Get it? Reclaim. Take back these securities, and with it, the debt. Because when you get your security back, there is no debt. When they give you what belongs to you, there is no debt. There never was a debt in the first place, except you believe there is because we don't know what's going on, and you're trained to think like a debtor. We have to stop this. So I say the title of this is Say Goodbye to I Am a Debtor. It's a consciousness. It's a way of being, a state of being that has got to be taken out of us. I call it renewing of the mind. So that's what we're doing. That's what this whole thing is about, and it's right across the board. They are presuming we have abandoned these securities. Anything with your signature on it, there's a financial obligation attached to it, and your driver's license. You apply for a driver's license. You may never get a traffic ticket, so they may not ever, or any fines with relation to that. But there's a annual renewal, or every 5 years you have to renew it. So that's income. So if you got 1 million people or 10 million people that have applied for a driver's license every 5 years, the government's going to get a few $1 million in and collecting revenues from that. Securities, promises to pay, they can bank on that, and they are. Securitization. So anyhow, I just want to carry on here. This is important. Listen up, people. We do not owe them. They owe us. We do not have the obligation to perform. They do. You're all struggling and working your butts off to pay these obligations, but the fact is, they're the ones with the responsibility to take care of those obligations. They are with the obligation. They are the trustee, not us. Okay, so they, the banks, the governments, the debt collectors, the corporations, the one claiming to be or acting like the creditor are with the obligation to perform, not man, not woman. We are the originators of the credit, the grantors of the credit, not debtors. We're the source. They are debtors because they are trustees. They are trustees because they never gave value in exchange for our securities. Promissory notes of security, which has your signature on it, which makes those securities your property, as are the fruits of them, the proceeds. I get it. We were born into this state of affairs. We've been hoodwinked and programmed to believe in a manufactured reality where the originator of the credit, us, man and woman, is the debtor. And the debtor, the recipient of our credit, is the creditor. The whole thing is backwards. Backwards. It's my God. So anyhow, this is why governments have seem to have the wealth and the power that they do, and all these major corporations out there have the wealth and the power that they do, because basically they've been stealing. And I'm using that term stealing loosely because it's really because of our lack of knowledge, not realizing that when you give an institution a promise to pay for whatever amount. You just actually gave them the credit. So again, the way it should be working, if everything's done on the up and up, you walk into the bank and say, yep, I'd like to purchase, I want to move into this lovely home here. Here's the particulars, here's the price. You fill out the paperwork, I'll sign it for the full amount and give me the check. And I'll take it to the vendor and give him the check. He moves out, I move in, no debt, no mortgage, no 10, 15, 20, 50 years paying for the rest of your life for something you never own anyhow. Wake up. So, and I put in the description area below this video here, it's a very short presentation by a fellow named Richard Werner, very smart fella. He's a best-selling author. He's out of England. The book is called The Prince of the Yen. This is a book on banking, and it was a #1 bestseller in Japan. Book on banking, #1 bestseller. Are you kidding me? True story. He lays out the truth. Contrary to popular belief, banks do not take deposits. You're going, what? I go to the bank every day and make a deposit, or it's automatic deposit or electronic deposit. What do you mean they don't take deposits? Another scam, trick. They don't take deposits, nor do banks make loans. Now, Richard doesn't get into the technicalities of why that is, but he's right on the money. When I first saw that video, I didn't understand. It's only 3 minutes and 22 seconds. I didn't understand that either. What do you mean banks don't take deposits? Everybody, millions of people go in every day and make a deposit at the bank. That's what they're doing, right? It says right here, I'm here to make a deposit. Yes, deposited this into my account electronically. Whatever. Not so, people. The key here is the difference here is that the terms special deposit and general deposit. Unless somebody specifies special deposit, you have to say it. This is for special deposit. If you don't say that, it will be treated as general deposit. And general deposit is this. You go into the bank, whether you walk in the bank and deposit to put in what you're thinking, I'm going to deposit, $500 via this check, or it comes in from your employer automatically, electronically into the bank. You're thinking that's a deposit. So let's just say, okay, I'm going in the bank, I'm going to deposit $1,000. Well, as soon as you do that and the general deposit, that $1,000, the bank takes the title to that $1,000. That $1,000 now belongs to the bank. Yeah, the bank owes you the $1,000, but they just took it, and they can do whatever they want with it. Now think of all the billions of dollars that's being deposited every day, and these banks can do whatever they want with our money. They use that money to screw us in more ways than most people will ever figure out. Whereas if you put it in special deposit, they can't do that. They have to hold it on trust now. They can't commingle it with anything else. They can't put it in as a bank's aggregate or general fund. They can't touch it. It stays with you. Another little secret in banking. Again, I'm not telling people what to do here. We're just here to share some information, and we've had the information that we offer in our packages to put it all in perspective for people. And I've talked to a lot of people have a lot of knowledge. And so other than, like I say, a couple little nuggets they've got from this information, they don't need to get the package, but a lot of people do need to. I would recommend they get the package because there's a lot of stuff that you don't know. Speaking for myself, I've been on this path 20 years, and once I was introduced to the reclaiming security stuff, everything fell into place. That's when it all fell into place, and I'm not seeking anymore. I get people send me, oh, check this out, check that out. I'm not interested. This is it. I'm not here to preach to you. If this resonates with you, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If you see the sense of what's going on in these videos, and there's some little nuggets in there and it grabs you, then that shouldn't be enough to say, I got to check this out. If you're not getting that and you're waiting for me to give you something to convince you of something, then just forget reclaim your securities and keep going, move on. So anyhow, so banks don't lend money. Like I said, when you go into the bank, you think you're getting a loan, you actually extended the credit to the bank. Not the other way around. The bank just is extending you. When the bank says we lend our depositors money, you're darn right you do. They deposited your promissory note into a securities account and lent it back to you. You're the depositor, get it? Securities account, now it's held in trust, special deposit, your credit, not the bank's, yours. But then they're going, well, he doesn't know what's going on here. He doesn't know that he just handed us $500,000. Well, then flip the paper over and have him sign it and say he owes us $500,000 plus interest. There it is, people. So at the end of the day, the bank gets all of these payments. The bank gets the original $500,000, lends it back to you, and you pay the bank back $1 million, whatever it is, plus interest. They got all of that for nothing. All of it, 100% for nothing. I call that highway robbery, and then some. So, and they're not going to just lay down and die on this stuff either. People be aware of that. They've been at this for banking's been at this for, I don't know, tens, hundreds, thousands of years. As I mentioned, the goldsmith story, that's where it started. The banker realized the goldsmith, hey, people aren't coming to take their gold. Only 1 in 10 do. So I can start to leverage other securities, other pieces of paper against this gold here. That's a crime. But until the people come in and say, no, I didn't abandon my security, special deposit, not general deposit, they can do whatever they want with it legally. So again, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So do check out the video by Richard Werner. It's an eye opener. And just like I said, when I first watched, I'm going, what do you mean the banks don't take deposits? What do you mean they don't lend money? No, they don't. They don't. We're funding the whole thing, you and I. And as soon as you put your signature to something that's a financial instrument of some sort, there's the credit. People, you and I are the originators. We're the source. We are not debtors. I strongly recommend people working on rewiring the brain. Again, I know we're born into this situation, every one of us, you, me, all of us, born into a world where all these big monolith banks and the governments, they're all the creditors. No, they're not. It's a lie. It is a lie. It is a lie. It's been going on long enough that it now appears to be the truth, but it's still a lie. So anyhow, I think that's all I had to say for this video. Born into this state of affairs. We've been hoodwinked, a program to believe in a manufactured reality where the originator of the credit, us men and women, is the debtor, and the debtor, the recipient of our credit, is the creditor. It's all backwards, people. It's all backwards. So, I hope this helps a little bit on folks understanding and promises to pay. There's more to it, like I say, and it's all explained exceedingly well in the Reclaim Your Securities information. Again, if this information you're hearing here and information you're getting from the blog, restorethekingdomofgod.blogspot.com, is not resonating with you, filling in some blanks does not make sense, then keep going. Not here to convince you of anything. Just try and let the facts and the information and do that for you. So I'm just going to put on pause, got to go to the washroom, and I shall return shortly. Thank you. Okay, I'm back. Teeth aren't flowing anymore. So I don't know what else to add here today. There'll be additional videos, I'm sure. So restorethekingdomofgod.blogspot.ca. Make sure you click on each of the three hyperlinks. One is titled sample info. The other one is must read, and the other is the uniform securitization scheme. These are must read information. Now, after reading that and the other information on the blog and some of these videos, if it doesn't make sense to you, doesn't resonate, then like I say, keep going. Hopefully you'll wake up soon to the fact that we, flesh and blood, living, breathing men and women, children of God, are the source. We're the originators of the credit, not those dead entity institutions out there that are creations of man. Come on, think about it. And like I said, from that imperialism of America, these banking cartels are using the governments for enforcement. Our saving grace at the end of the day on all of this is the fact that none of these entities are claiming that we've abandoned these securities, which they should be doing. In other words, the disposition of property, disposition of securities, and they should be reporting the capital gains. So in other words, when the bank should be reporting, oh, the guy came in today and gave us a promissory note. He gave us a promissory note, a property worth $1 million. And we didn't give any value for it. So what do you think the tax liability is on that, people? Anyhow, and at the end of it, when you pay it all off, they got it all for absolutely nothing. And they're not reporting it, and they're not paying the taxes on it. When you start to see this, you'll see all those big, tall banking towers out there that have been created from stealing from you and I, or thriving off our lack of knowledge. these buildings will start to get smaller as we start to reclaim our securities, because they're going to have to start giving back. In the testimonial there, a fella collected $21 million on a promise to pay from Canada Revenue Agency, collected it from a bank, give it back to the guy. It was his promissory note that funded the loan in the first place, and all the fruits and all the proceeds and all the leveraging they do against that, it all belongs to him because it's all off of his original promise to pay. It's the fruits. If you own the tree, you own the fruits on the tree, right? So if you own the note, whatever those fruits are, and this is why a full accounting is required, and this is what the Canada Revenue or the IRS does, that's your job. They become your collection agent. And we start to take this wealth that's been taken from you and I and bring it back home. So these banks would start to get smaller. They'd have less power now, wouldn't they? Same with governments, same with the courts, same with all of that. Those fictional, legally created, man-made entities that seem to rule our lives would have no more power because they wouldn't have any money. Not that they have power, but I get, the belief. That's how our way we take the power, by shifting the wealth back to you and I. But we have to reclaim these securities. We have to get educated and do this. And on that note, I bid you adieu. God bless you. I love you. Hopefully you wake up, and we'll talk soon. Ciao for now. Name is Vic. God bless.